students. Today I am here to teach you chapter 5 in your textbook that's called Volume of Solids. In chapter 4, we discussed about surface areas. Now we'll discuss about volumes. So what are the shapes we discussed before? We discussed before about cube, cuboid, prisms, cylinders, pyramid, and what else? Spheres. So we take the same shapes to find out the volume of solids. First we'll take the basic shape. What's this shape? All sides are equal. We call it cube. So we'll first take cube and find out the volume of the cube. If we take one side of the square is A, what's the area of the base? Base area is A square. Now when you pile up all these squares up to here, this height is also A. No? So what is the volume of the cube? You need to take the A cube. A times A is the base area times A. You get the volume of the cube. So what you get? You get A cube as the volume. So if you want to find out the volume of a cube, what you need to know? Length of one side. So you cube it. Now we'll find out whether we can use the formula for these examples. So in the first example it says, find the volume of the cube when length of one side is 6 centimeters. So when you draw the diagram, we can see one side is 6. So something like this. So here A is 6 now. So we can straight away apply the formula. A cube. A cube is 6 times 6 times 6. What's the answer? 6 times 6 is 36. 36 times 6 is 216. What's the unit? Cubic centimeters. Now take the next example. Find the volume of the cube when length of one side is 11 now. So here it's given a cube, that means all sides are equal. One side is 11. So how can we find out the volume? Volume is equal to 11 cube. 11 times 11 times 11. So here, what's 11 times 11? 121. 121 times 11. Shall we use the short method? So how we use? You write the last two digits separate, last one and the first one separately. So 1 and 1. And then what you do? You add 2 plus 1, 3. 2 plus 1, 3. So you get the value as 1331. What's the unit? Cubic centimeter as the volume of this cube. Now we'll take another example. Find length of one side when volume is given. Now the reverse process. You have given the volume and you are asked to find out the length of the cube. So what's the formula to find out the volume? We don't know the length A, but volume is 125. So we know 125 is equal to A cube. A is the length of one side. Then what's 125? Which number cube is 125? Is it 4 times 4 times 4? No. You get 5 times 5 times 5. So we know 5 to the power 3. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. Now how can we solve this? We know the same power, you can equate the bases. So straight away we can write A equals 5 centimeters. Now look at the next one. It's given find the length of one side when volume is 1000. Again, similar to this one, you are asked to find out the length of one side. So length of one side when V is 1000. So you can use the formula V equals A cube. For a cube, 1000 is equal to A cube. So what's the number to the power 3 is 1000. You know there are 3 zeros, 10 to the power 3. So 10 to the power 3 is A cube. That means same power, you can compare the two bases. So A becomes 10 centimeters. Now the next shape is about a cuboid. So cuboid, you get a rectangle. Now you know how to draw a cuboid. What are the three sides? Length, breadth and height. So we can take L as the longest side, breadth as the other side and height as H. Now how we can find out the volume of the cuboid? Now think about if this is the base area. So we are taking those rectangles together and you can make this cuboid. So here what's the area of the base? We know L times B. L into B. Now if you are filling all these with L times B, you have to fill up to H. So what's the volume of the cuboid? You have to take the base area multiplied by height. So you get length times breadth times height for a cuboid. So I'll write V equals L B H. So you need to know this formula to find out the volume of a cuboid. Now we'll apply this formula in several examples. First one, find the volume of a cuboid when length is 20 centimeters, breadth is 12 centimeters and height is 6 centimeters. So we'll try to sketch the diagram. So you get a cuboid. Length is 20 centimeters, breadth is 12 and height is 6 centimeters. So what's the formula? V equals L length into breadth into height. Length is 20, breadth is 12 and height is 6. So what's the unit? Cubic centimeters. So 12 times 6. 6 times 2, 12, 1 remaining, 6 times 1, 6 plus 1, 7. So 72 times 2, 144. So 144 and there's another 0. So 1440 cubic centimeters. Now take the next one. Find the volume of the cuboid tank. Length is 3, breadth is 2.5, height is 2. So when you take the cuboid shaped tank, length is 3 meters, breadth is 2.5 and height is 2 meters. So what's the volume? Again, apply the formula. Length is 3 into breadth is 2.5. I'll take 5 over 2 as a fraction. And then 2 is the height. So all these measurements in meters. So here 2 get cancelled out. 3 times 5, 15 cubic meters. Now look at this example. It says if area of the base is 240 and volume is 720, find the height of the cuboid. Now we know when you take the cuboid, if you take this as the base, so this is the base area. We'll take A. Base area is length times breadth and it's given 240. And volume is base area times height. L times B you can write as base area and multiply by H. So again, if you know the base area, we can write straight away A into H because A is actually length times breadth. So without writing L and B, now we'll try to use capital A. So capital A is the base area of a cuboid. Now we'll plug the values. Volume is given 720 and the base area is given 240. So straight away you can find out the height. So height is equal to 720 divided by 240. So when you divide by 2, you get 12 and 36. 12 times 3. So H equals 3 centimeters. Now the next shape that you need to know is about triangular based prism. So what is a prism? So last time in grade 10, last year in grade 10, you discussed about the triangular based prisms. So a prism means you get same cross-sectional area at the two ends. So same area here and here. So here, what about triangular based prism means you get a triangle. So here you get a triangle here and the same triangle on the other side, and then you can connect the sides. That's how you can draw a prism. So here we call this part is the cross section. So cross section is a triangle now, cross section. So if you know the length of one side, we'll take base length. This length is A and the perpendicular height of that is H. We can find out the area of the cross section by half times base times height. So here, if you are using that formula, how can we find out the volume of the triangular base prism? You find out the cross section area times the length of the prism. So we'll take this one as L. When you take as L, A times L. So here, what is A? Half times base. Base length is A now. A times height is H into L is the volume of a triangular base prism. Now we'll use that formula to find out the volume of these prisms. So first one, it's a right angle triangle, 90 degrees given. Base length is 8 and the perpendicular height is 12. So straight away you can use the formula. Half, base length 8, height is 12, and then half times base times height into length. Length is 20. Now simplify. You can divide by 2. You get 10. 8 times 12. What you get? 8 times 2 is 16. 1 remaining. You get 96. 96 and then put a 0. So 960 cubic centimeters if these lengths are given in centimeters. Now look at the second example. In this one, this cross-section lengths are given. So you need to know even this one is given, this is also same. So you can take this one is 20 and the perpendicular height is same as this, 10. So how can we find out the volume? Volume is half times base length 20 times the perpendicular height is 10 times, then what's the length of the prism? 20. Now we can simplify. This is 10. 10 times 10, 100. 20 times 100, you get 2000 cubic centimeters as the volume of this triangular based prism. Now look at this example. You have given length of the prism and the volume. You are asked to find out the area of the triangle. So you are asked to find out the base area, cross section area. So we know V equals cross section area times L. Cross section area is A. We know length is 50 centimeters given and volume is given 2000 cubic centimeters. So how can we find out A? A is equal to 2000 divide by 50. 0 get cancelled out. 5 with this 4, you get 40. 40 square centimeters because this is about an area. Now the next shape that you need to know is about cylinder. So cylinder is also a prism. What's the difference? What's the cross section now? Cross section is the circle now. So here, how can we draw a cylinder? Cross section is a circle. You get another circle there. So this is the cylinder. So you need to know the radius of the cylinder and the length of the cylinder. We'll take height. Height is the same. So height of the cylinder is h and the radius of the circular part is r. Then how can we find out the volume? We know the cross section is a circle. So according to the formula, V equals cross section area into length. What is cross section area? Pi r squared, because this is a circle. Pi r squared. And what is the length? Length is h. So what's the formula we can use? Pi r squared h. So when you get a cylinder, you can use this formula straight away. R is the radius, h is the height or length of the cylinder. Now we'll try to apply that formula in this question. Find volume of a cylinder when radius is 7 and height is 50. So we can straight away plug the values. What's the formula? Pi. Pi is 22 over 7. R squared. What is R? R is 7. 7 times 7. What's h? H is 50. When you simplify, what you get? You get 7 times 22. 7 times 2 is 14. 1 remaining. 7 times 2, 14 plus 1, 15. Multiplied by 50 again. So, put a 0 and multiply by 5. 5 times 4, 20. 2 remaining. 5 times 5, 25 plus 2, 27. 2 remaining. 5 times 1, 5 plus 2, 7. So, 7,700 cubic centimeters is the volume of this cylinder. Now take the next one. Find the radius of the circular plane when the volume is given and the height is given. So in this one, you have given length or height is 20 and the volume is given 3080. So you are asked to find out what is R. Now use the formula. What's the formula? V equals pi R squared H. What is pi? 22 over 7. But we don't know about the radius. So we'll write as it is. Height. Height is 20. And volume is given 3080. Now make R squared as the subject of the formula. What you get? R squared. What you get? 7 times 3080 divide by 22 and 20. So here 1 0 get cancelled out. When you divide by 11, 11 times 2, 11 times 2, 22 and 8 remaining, that's 8. Then 2 times 2, 4, 4 times 7. So you get R squared as 49. So what's the R value? Square root of 49. This is plus or minus, but we take only the positive answer. So what is square root of 49? You get 7 centimeters. Now we'll look at the review exercise in your textbook. So you have given all these shapes we discussed: cube, cuboid, triangular prism and cylinder. And you are asked to fill these blanks: cross-sectional area and volume. So all these are prisms. So cross-section is continuous throughout the figure. So first we need to identify the cross-section and then multiply by height to get the volume. When you take cube, if this is the cross-section or base area, how can we find out the area? A times A, or you can write A squared. How you find out the volume? The cross-section area times the height. So A squared times A, you get A cube. Now look at the next one, a cuboid. So we have to decide which cross-section you are taking. So if I take this as the cross-section, what's the area? A times B. You get AB. So here, what's the height now? Height is C here, this height. So how can we find out the volume? AB length multiplied by C, you get ABC. What about the third one? Triangular prism. So what's the cross section there? Cross section is the triangle. Base length is A and the height is H. So how can we find out the area of a triangle? Half times base length times height. Half AH. Then how can we find out the volume? We multiplied by length. So half AH multiplied by L, we get half AHL. Now take the other one, cylinder. So what's the cross section there? Cross section is this circle. So what's the area of the cross section? Pi R squared, because radius is R. Then how can we find out the volume? The length is given or the height of the cylinder is given H. So we need to multiply by pi R squared H. Now we'll take the second one. Question number 2. Find the volume of a cube of a side length 10. So if we draw this one, a cuboid, you draw two squares like this and connect. So the length is given 10 centimeters. We know length, height, width, everything 10. All sides are equal. So what's the volume of the cuboid? 10 times 10 times 10, or a cube. So you get 1000 cubic centimeters. Now we'll take the third one. Find the volume of a cuboid of length 15, width 10 and height 8. So when you take the cuboid like this, length is given 15, width is given 10 and the height is given 8. So how can we find out the volume of the cuboid? We can use length into breadth or width into height. So here 15 times 8 first. 8 times 5 is 44 remaining. 8 times 1, 8. 8 plus 4, 12. And then 0 there. 1200 cubic centimeters. Now look at the fourth one. Find the volume of a cylinder of radius 7 and height 12. So when you draw the diagram, you have given height is 20 centimeters. The radius is 7 centimeters. So you are asked to find out the volume. So what's the volume? We know when it's cylinder, this is pi r squared h. So use the formula. Pi is 22 over 7. Radius is 7 and h is given 20. So here 7 get cancelled out and we can find out 22 times 7, 7 times 2, 14, 1 remaining, 7 times 2, 14 plus 1, 15 and multiply by 20. So we'll multiply by 2 and then put a 0. 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 5, 10, 1 remaining, 2 times 1, 2 plus 1, 3. So 3080 cubic centimeters for the volume of this figure. Fifth one, find the volume of the prism shown in the figure. So here base length is given 8, height of the triangle is 6 and the length of the prism is 15 centimeters. So how can we find out the volume? First find the area of the triangle. Half times base length times height. That's the area of the triangle. Multiplied by the length of the prism. So multiplied by 15. So how we can simplify? 2 times 3. 8 times 3, 24. 24 times 15. So we'll multiply 24 times 15 multiplied by 10 and 5. 1 times 4, 1 times 2, 2. 5 times 4, 22 remaining. 5 times 2, 20. 10, 10 plus 2, 12. 360. So what's the volume here? 360 cubic centimeters. Now we'll take volume of square-based right pyramids. So how can we find out the volume of a pyramid? So here, what's a pyramid? We did before. This is a square base, so you can draw a square and then this is the apex and you connect with the apex. So this is a square-based right pyramid. What is right pyramid means? When you take the height is perpendicular to the base. So what are the lengths that we need to know? If it's a pyramid, we need to know the base length. We'll take as A. What's the other length we need to know? we need to know the perpendicular height. Perpendicular height is h. Now, you know, one of the mathematicians found that when you take a cuboid, A, and here we'll take A, h is the height, and this is a length A, and this is also A, and this is the square base one. If you take this cuboid and then take the midpoint of this one, so this is, if you take the midpoint of this surface is this one as the apex, and if you connect these lengths, you get the square base right pyramid. So here I'll mark these sides also. You get a square based right pyramid. Now, they found out if we know the volume of the cuboid, the volume of the pyramid is 1/3 of this volume of the cuboid. Now we'll see what's the volume of the cuboid. Base length is A. What's the volume of the cuboid? I can take as this is A, and H. H means A squared H. So here that's the volume of the cuboid. So what's the volume of the pyramid then? 1/3 of that volume of the pyramid. 1/3 of the volume of the cuboid. A squared H. So what's the formula to find out the volume of square based pyramid? 1/3 A squared H. A is the base length and H is the perpendicular height. So if you know perpendicular height and the base length, you can find out the volume of the pyramid. Now we'll see how we can apply that formula. In this example, they ask him find the volume of a square base pyramid when height is 15. So here height is 15. So this perpendicular height is 15 and the base length is 8. This is 8 given. So what's the formula? V equals 1/3 A squared H. So you can plug the values. 1/3. A is 8. 8 times 8 times H is 15. So how can we simplify? 3 with 15, 5. 8 times 5, 40. 40 times 8. 40 times 8 is 320. What's the unit? Cubic centimeters. Now look at the second example. Find the volume of a square base pyramid when height is 20. So when you draw the square base pyramid, height is given 20. So this perpendicular height is 20 and the base length is 12. So what's the formula? V equals 1/3 A squared H. 1/3 A is 12. 12 into 12. H is 20. So we'll simplify. 3 times 4, 12 and you get 4 times 12, 4 times 2, 8. 8 times 12, 8 times 2, 16, 1 remaining, you get 96 and put this 0. So 960 cubic centimeters is the volume of this square base pyramid. Now we'll look at example number 1 in your textbook. It's find the volume of a square base right pyramid of height 10 and base length 15. So if we draw the diagram, we can take something like this, and it says height is 10. So this perpendicular height h is 10 and the base length is 15. So we can use the formula. So what is the formula for the volume of the pyramid? 1/3 a squared h. So we'll use the formula 1/3. A is 15 now. 15 times 15 times h. H is the perpendicular height. So we'll put 10. Now simplify this. 15 divided by 3, you get 5. Then 15 times 5, 5 times 5, 25, 2 remaining, 5 times 1, 5 plus 2, 75. 75 times 10, 750. What's the unit? Cubic centimeters. We'll take the example number 2. The volume of a pyramid with a square base is 400 cubic centimeters. So here, for a square base pyramid, volume is given 400 cubic centimeters. And you are asked to find the length of a side of the base if its height is 12. So the perpendicular height is given 12 centimeters. So they are asking take the length of side A. Side is A. Now we'll use the formula. 400 is equal to, volume is equal to 1/3 A squared. A squared, h is 12. Now we can simplify 3 with 12, 4. 4a squared is 400. Divide both sides by 4. You get a squared is 100. Then when you take the square root of 400, not 400, square root of 100 is equal to, this is plus or minus, but we take only the positive value. Square root of 100 is 10 centimeters. So the base length is 10 centimeters. Now we'll take exercise 5.1 in your textbook. It's given the height of the pyramid with a square base is 9 centimeters. So that means the height, when you take the square base pyramid, the height h is equal to 9 centimeters. And also the base length is given 5 centimeters. That's A. You are asked to find out the volume of the pyramid. So what's the formula? V equals 1/3 A squared h. 1/3 A is 5. So 5 times 5. H is 9. Now simplify. 3 times 3, 9. 5 times 5, 25. 25 times 3, you get 75. So what's the unit? Cubic centimeters is the unit. We'll take question number 2. A square pyramid of height 10. When you draw the diagram, the height is this side. So h is 10. Has a base of area 36. Now the whole area is given 36 square centimeters. Find the volume of the pyramid. Now we know what's the base area? Base area is A times A. A squared value is given 36 now. Now we'll use that information in the formula. Volume is equal to 1/3 A squared H, and 1/3 A squared is given 36 and height is given 10. So substitute that value. So 3 times 1, 3 times 12. So 12 times 10, you get 120. What's the unit? Cubic centimeters. Question number 3. The volume of a square pyramid of height 12. So in this diagram, height is given, h is given 12 centimeters and the volume is given 256 cubic centimeters. Find the length of the side of the base. So that means you need to find out the value of A. Now we'll plug it to the formula. What's the formula? 1/3 A squared H. Now we know the volume is 256. 1/3 A is A squared, H is 12. Now simplify. 3 times 1, 3 times 4. 4A squared is 256. How can we find out A? A squared divided by 4. So A squared is equal to 4 times 6, 24 and 4 times 4. So 64. So how can we find out A? Square root of 64, you get plus or minus value. That's 8 centimeters. So base length is 8 centimeter for this pyramid. We'll take question number 4. The height of a square pyramid is 5. When you draw the diagram, height is given 5. That means h equals 5 centimeters. Its volume is 60. So V equals 60 cubic centimeters. Find the area of its base. So they ask what's the base area. So what is base area if the length is A? So they ask what's the A squared value. Now we'll find out. Use the formula. V equals 1/3 A squared H. We know we need to find A squared. So we'll make A squared as the subject of the formula. We get A squared is equal to 3V over H. Now we'll substitute. V is 60. 3 times 60 divided by H. H is 5. 5 times 1, 5. For 10, that's 2. 12 times 3. 36 is the A squared value. This is an area. So you get centimeter squared. Now we'll take 5th question. It says the volume of a square pyramid is 216. So volume is given. The length of a side of its base is 9. So that means when you draw the square base pyramid, one length is given 9 centimeters. And you're asked to find out the height of the pyramid. So that means you need H. So use the formula. Volume is equal to 1/3 A squared H. Volume is given 216 and A squared. One side is 9. That means 9 squared into H. Then what is H? I can take it to the other side. When you make H as the subject, I am multiplying this by 3 and divide by 9 times 9. Now simplify. 3 times 1, 3 times 3. Then I can multiply by 9, divide by 9. 9 times 2, 18 and 36, 9 times 3. 9 times 4. So 24. So then you get 3 times 8, 24. So what's the answer? H equals 8 centimeter. Question number 6. The area of the base of a square pyramid is 16. So when you draw the pyramid, this area, base area is given 16 square centimeters. So what's that? If one base length is A, that's basically A squared value. And its volume is 80. Find the height of the pyramid. You are asked to find out H. Now we'll use the formula. What's the formula? V equals 1/3 A squared H. V is 80. A squared. We got A squared as 16. So how can we find H? H is 80 multiplied by 3 divided by 16. So you can divide by 4, 4 times 4, 4 times 20. Then again divide by 4, you get 5. 5 times 3, 15 centimeter for the height. We'll take question number 7. The side length of the base of a square pyramid is 12. It's already given. And the slant height is 10 centimeters. So here this length is given 10 centimeters and you are asked to find out the height. Height means this perpendicular height. We know what is this length? If the full length is 12, half of it is 6 centimeters. So what's the relationship between H, 6 and 10? You can use Pythagoras theorem. So 10 squared is equal to H squared plus 6 squared. So what is H squared? 10 squared minus 6 squared. So 10 squared is 100. 6 squared is 36. When you subtract, you get 64. When you take the square root of that, you get 8 centimeters. So the height of the pyramid is 8 centimeters. Now they want to find out the volume. So what's the formula for volume? Volume is equal to 1/3 A squared H. 1/3 A is 12. 12 times 12. What's the perpendicular height now? We found that's 8. Now try to simplify. 3 times 4. So 12 times 4, you get 48. 48 times 8. 8 times 8, 64. 6 remaining. 8 times 4, 32. 32 plus 6, you get 38. So answer is 384 cubic centimeters for the volume of this pyramid. Question number 8. The side length of the base of a square pyramid is 10. So if you take the square pyramid, the base length is 10 centimeters. That's A given. And the slant height is 13. So this is the slant height. That's 13 centimeters given. Find the height. Again, you can draw the triangle inside. If height is this, we can make a right angle triangle. If this is 10, half of it is 5. So use Pythagoras theorem. You get 13 squared is equal to H squared plus 5 squared. What is 13 squared? 169. What is 5 squared? 25. Now find H squared. 169 minus 25. You get 144. So square root of 144 is 12 centimeters. So we found out the height of the pyramid is 12 centimeters. Now we want to find out the volume. So what's the formula? So this is part 1. This is part 2. So volume is, you can use the formula. 1/3 A squared H. 1/3. A is 10. 10 times 10. What's H? H is 12. Then 3 times 4. 4 times 100. You get 400. What's the unit? Cubic centimeters. Now we'll look at the other solid shape that's called a cone. So what's a cone? We did that in last chapter. Cone is something like this. You get the circle as the base area. So what you call this? Circular plane. And you need to know, here to here we call the height, perpendicular height of the cone. We take as h. And here this is the radius of the circular plane. We will take as r. So what's this side? This is the slant height. We can take as L. So what is L? Slant height. What's H? We can take as perpendicular height. And what is R? R is the radius of the circular plane. Now we'll see how we can find out the volume of a cone. Here one of the mathematicians found, when you take a cylinder with the same radius as the cone, we take R as the radius, and if the height of the cone is the same as height of the cylinder. So when you take the middle point, when you connect it, you get the cone shape from the cylinder. So here, this is the cone you are getting. We know if the height of the cylinder is h, the perpendicular height of the cone is also h. And the radius of the circular plane is same as the radius of the cylinder. Now, if we can fit a cone like this, they found the volume of the cylinder is 3 times bigger than the volume of the cone. So here, volume of the cone is other way around, is 1/3 of the volume of the cylinder. Now we know how to find out the volume of the cylinder. What's the volume? Pi r squared h. Now when we plug that information, pi r squared h into 1/3, that's how we find out the volume of the cone. So here we can use this formula to find out the volume of the cone. So pi is 22/7, r is the radius of the circular plane, and h is the perpendicular height. Now we'll see example number 1 in your textbook. It says, find the volume of the cone, radius is 7 and the height is 12. So here, this perpendicular height is given 12 and the radius is 7. You are asked to find out the volume. So what's the formula we can use? We can use V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. So substitute the values. 1/3. What's the pi value? 22/7. What's r? R is 7. So 7 times 7, and h is the perpendicular height. Now substitute and simplify. 7, 7 get cancelled out. This 3 and this 12, you get 4. So what's the answer? 4 times 7, 28. 28 times 22. We'll multiply and see. 20 and 2, 2 times 2, 4. 2 times 2, 4. And here you have to multiply by 8. 8 times 2, 16. 1 remaining. 8 times 2, 16 plus 1, 17. So you get 616 cubic centimeters for the volume of this cone. We'll look at example number 2. It says the circumference of the base of a cone is 44. Its perpendicular height is 21. Find the volume of the cone. Now we'll draw the information, given information. The circumference of this one. So here, this part is given 44 centimeters and the perpendicular height h is given 21 centimeters and you are asked to find out the volume. Now how can we find out the radius? If you know radius is our circumference of a circle, 2 pi r. 2 pi r is given 44. Using that you can find out the radius. 2 times 22 over 7 times r is 44. How can we find r? R is 44 times 7. Cross multiply. Divide by 2 times 22. 2 times 22 is 44. Get cancel out this 44. You get 7 centimeter as the radius. Now we need to find out the volume. So what's the volume formula? 1/3 pi r squared h. So substitute 1/3. Pi is 22 over 7. R. What's R now? We found 7. 7 times 7. And the perpendicular height is 21. Now simplify. 1, 7 get cancelled out. This 3 with this one 7. And you get 7 times 7, 49. 49 times 22. So what's the answer? 49 times 22, 20 and 2, 2 times 9, 18, 1 remaining, 2 times 4, 8 plus 1, 9. 2 times 9, 18, so 98. 8, 17 and 10. 1078 cubic centimeters for the volume of this cone. Example number 3. It says find the height and the volume of a cone of radius 7 and slant height is 25. So when you draw the cone, radius is 7 and slant height means this one L. L is given 25. You are asked to find out the height. How can we do that? So the height we can take as h. We know this is perpendicular. So you can use Pythagoras theorem. So when you use Pythagoras theorem, we can say h squared plus 7 squared is equal to 25 squared. H squared is equal to 25 squared minus 7 squared. 25 times 25 is 625. 7 squared is 49. So what's h? So subtract this. You get 9, 6, 15, 1 remaining, 5, 7 and 5. 576 is h squared. So what is h? Square root of 576. So what's that? 24 times 24. You get 576. So square root of 576 is 24 centimeters. So the perpendicular height is 24. You are asked to find out the volume. So volume is equal to 1/3 pi r squared h. 1/3 pi is 22 over 7. What's the radius value? Radius value is 7. What's the height? Height we found, that's 24. Now simplify. 1, 7 get cancelled out. This 3 with this, you get 8. 8 times 7, 56. So 56 times 22. 56 times 22. What's the value? Multiply by 2. You get 12. 2 times 5, 10 plus 1, 11. 102. When you multiply, you get 1232. So what's the unit? Cubic centimeters. Now we'll look at example number 4. Find the perpendicular height of a cone of radius 3.5. So 3.5 I can write as 7 over 2 as a fraction. And the volume is given 154 cubic centimeters. So use the height as h and you are asked to find out the perpendicular height. So we can use the formula. What's V? 1/3 pi r squared h. Volume is given 154. Pi is 22 over 7. What's r squared? 7 over 2 times 7 over 2. So what's the perpendicular height? H. Now simplify. 1, 7 get cancelled out. This 2 and this you get 11. So what's H? H is equal to 154 multiplied by 3 and multiplied by 2 and divide by 11 and 7. Now try to simplify this. 7 times 2, 14. For 14, 7 times 2. 11 times 2 here. So what's the answer? 2 times 2, 4. 4 times 3, 12 centimeters for the perpendicular height. Now we'll do exercise 5.2 in your textbook. It says find the volume of the cone of radius 7 and height 12. So h is given 12 and r is 7. So straight away we can use the formula. 1/3 pi r squared h. 1/3 here, 22 over 7 for pi and r squared, 7 times 7 and h. H is given 12. Now simplify. 7, 7 get cancelled out. 3 with 12 you get 4. Again 7 times 4, 28. 28 times 22. 28 times 22 multiplied by 20 and 2. 2 times 8, 16. 2 times 2, 4 plus 1, 5. You get same thing here. So add these two together, you get 616 cubic centimeters for the volume of this cone. Now take the second question. Find the volume of a cone of diameter 21. So if diameter is 21, what's the radius? 21 over 2. So I can write 21 over 2 as the radius. So height is given 25 centimeters. So how can we find out the volume? Volume is equal to 1/3 pi r squared h. 1/3 pi is 22 over 7. What's r? R is 21 over 2 and h is the perpendicular height. Perpendicular height is 25. So here simplify this. 2 and this one you get 11. 7 times this you get 3. And this 3 and this 3 get cancelled out. What else? We can't simplify further. So here what we can do, we can multiply 11 times 21 and then 25. So 21 times 11 times 25 divided by 2. So here we'll multiply. We know we can multiply 21 times 11 using the short method. So you write 2, 1 separately. 2 plus 1, you get 3. So 231 multiplied by 25. 20 and 5, you get so when you add this, you get 5775. 5775. Then you need to divide this by 2. So divide this by 2, you get 5775 divided by 2. You get 2 here, 4, 1 remaining for 17, that's 8, 16, 1 remaining, 8, 16, 1 remaining for 15, that's 7, 2 times 7, 14, 1 remaining, you get 5. So what's the answer? 2887.5. This is about volume, so cubic centimeters. Now we'll take question number 3. Find the volume of a cone of slant height is 13. So this length is 13 and the base radius is 5. You're asked to find out the volume. So what's the formula for volume? 1/3 pi r squared h. We need to find out the perpendicular height first. So how can we find out perpendicular height? Use Pythagoras theorem. According to Pythagoras, we can write 13 squared is equal to h squared plus 5 squared. So h squared is equal to 13 squared minus 5 squared. 13 squared is 169. 5 squared is 25. When you subtract, you get 144. What's h value? Square root of 144. That's equal to 12 centimeters. So the height of the cone is 12 centimeters. Now we can find out the volume. 1/3 pi r squared h. 1/3 pi is 22/7. R is 5. 5 times 5. H we found as 12. So divide by 3. 3 times 4. And here 5 times 5, 25. 25 times 4, you get 100. So you get 22 to put 2 zeros and divide by 7. So what's the value? 7 times 3, 21. For 10, that's 1. 3 remaining. For 30, that's 4. 28 and 2 remaining. So 314 2/7 cubic centimeter is the volume of this cone. Now we'll look at question number 4. Find the volume of a cone of a diameter 12. So the diameter 12 and the slant height, this length is 10 centimeters. So you're asked to find out the volume. So volume is equal to 1/3 pi r squared h. But we don't know h. So you need to find out the perpendicular height. So when you look at the triangle, we know the slant length is 10. This length is half of that. That's 6 centimeters. Use Pythagoras theorem for that. 10 squared is equal to h squared plus 6 squared. So 10 squared is 100 and 6 squared is 36. So how can we find out h squared? 100 minus 36, that's equal to 64. When you take the square root of 64, you get 8 centimeter as the perpendicular height. We know perpendicular height now. We can find out the volume. So what's the formula? Volume is 1/3 pi r squared h. 1/3 pi is 22/7. R squared. What's R? Diameter is 12. So what is R? 6, half of it. And then 6 again, and h is 8. Now when you simplify this, you get 3 times 2. And what else? I can multiply this by 8 times 2, 16. 16 times 6, 90. 16 times 6 is 96. And you need that one multiplied by 22. So when you multiply by 22, you get 2 times 6, 12, 1 remaining, 2 times 9, 18, plus 1, 19, and then 2 again, 192. When you add these two together, you get 2112. So the volume of this figure is 2112 cubic centimeters. Question number 5. If the height of a cone of volume 616 is 12. So that means height is given as 12 centimeters and the volume is given 616. Find the radius of the cone. So that means you are asked to find out the radius. So how we can find out? We can use the formula for volume. 1/3 pi r squared h. We can use 616 for volume. 1/3 pi is 22/7 r squared. R squared, we need to find out h is the perpendicular height is 12. Now try to simplify. 3 with this 4. So what is r squared? 616. Multiply this by 7 and divide this by 22 and 4. Now simplify. 11 times 2, 11 times 5 here. You get 6. So 56. And 2 times 4, 8. 8 times 7, you get 56. So r squared is 49. R is square root of 49. You get 7 centimeter for the radius. Now we want to find out the radius. So that's the radius value. We'll take question number 6. The volume of a cone is 6,468 cubic centimeters and its height is given 14 centimeters. Find the diameter of the cone. So if you can find out radius, you multiply it by 2. So use the formula. V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. 1/3 pi value is 22/7 r squared and h is 14. Simplify. 7 times 2. You get 44 r squared over 3 is 6,468. So you need to find out r squared. So here multiply this by 3. You get r squared is equal to 6,468 multiplied by 3 divide by 44. Divide by 4, 11. Divide by 4, this one. 4 times 1, 4. For 24, 4 times 6. Again, 4 times 1, 4. For 28, 4 times 7. When you divide by 11, 11 times 1 is 11. 5 remaining. For 51, that's 4. Then 7 remaining, 7. So 147 times 3. So what is 147 times 3? 3 times 7 is 21. 2 remaining. 3 times 4, 12 plus 2, 14. 1 remaining. 3 times 1, 3. 3 plus 1, 4. What's the square root of 441? That's equal to 21. So what's the radius of this cone? 21. But they ask what's the diameter. So what's the diameter? You multiply this by 2. So when you multiply this by 2, you get 42 centimeters. Now we'll look at question number 7. The circumference of the base of a right cone is 44. So when you take the cone, the circumference is 44 centimeters and the slant height is 25. Compute the following: radius and the height and the volume. So we need to find radius, height and volume. But we know the circumference of this circle is 44. What's the circumference? 2 pi r. We can use 2 pi r is 44. 2 times pi. Pi is 22 over 7 times r is 44. So how can we find out r? You multiply this by 7 and divide by 2 and 22. This one is 44. Get cancelled out with this one. You get 7 centimeters as the radius of the cone. Then how can we find out the height? You can use Pythagoras theorem. According to Pythagoras theorem, 25 squared, that's the slant length, is equal to h squared plus r squared. R squared we found, that's 7 squared. Now find h squared. 25 squared minus 7 squared. 25 times 25, 625. 7 times 7, 49. When you subtract these two, what you get? 9 plus 6, 15. 1 remaining. For 5, then 7, 1 remaining. You get 576. What is square root of 576? We did that before. We got 24 centimeters. So that's the height of the cone. So how can we find out the volume? Volume is equal to 1/3 pi r squared h. 1/3. What's the pi value? 22 over 7 r squared. R is 7. You can plug 7 and h is 24. Now we can simplify. 7, 7 get cancelled out. 3 with 24 you get 8. And then you can multiply. 8 times 7, 56. 56 multiplied by 22. Multiply by 20 and 2, you get 2, 3, 2, 1. 1232. What's the unit? Cubic centimeters for the volume of this cone. Now we'll take question number 8. The circumference of the base of a conical shape container is 88. So that means the surface here in the circumference is given 88 and its perpendicular height is 12. That's h. Find the volume of the container. So from this circumference you need to find out the radius. So we'll use the formula for circumference. 2 pi r is 88. 2 times pi into r is 88. So what's the r value? 88 multiplied by 7 divide by 2 times 22. 2 times 22 is 44. 44 times 2 is 88. 2 times 7 is 14 centimeters. So that's the radius. Now we know the height and the radius. We can find out the volume. 1/3 pi r squared h. So 1/3, 22 over 7 is pi. R squared, that is 14 times 14, and h is the perpendicular height. That's 12. Now plug the values and simplify. 3 times 12, 3 times 4, 7 times 2. Then we can multiply. 4 times 2, 8. 8 times 14. 112. So 112 is 14 times 8. Now we need to find, multiply by 22. Now what's the answer? You get 2464 cubic centimeters for the volume of this cone. We'll take the 9th question. How many cones of radius 7 and height 15 can be made by melting a solid metal cylinder of base radius 14 and height 30 centimeters? So here a cylindrical shape is there. Radius is 14, height is 30. So this one is melting, and from that they are making cones of radius 7 and height 50. So you are asking, you want to find out how many cylinders, how many cones you can make from this. So that means find the volume of this one and find the volume of the cone and divide. You get how many cones you can make from this. So how you find out the volume of the cylinder? Can you remember? Volume of the cylinder is pi r squared h. We know this is 22/7, r is 14 and h is 30. Simplify, 7 times 2. Then 2 times 3, 6, that's 60. 60 times 14. So here 14 times 6, 84. So 84 and 0, 840. So you need to multiply 840 by 22. We'll multiply 20 and 2. 2 times 0, 2 times 4, 8, 2 times 8, 16. So here you get same answer here. When you add it together, you get 18,480. What's the unit? Cubic centimeter. So that's the total volume of this cylinder. Now what's the volume of the cone? We know volume of the cone is 1/3 pi r squared. That means 7 squared h. H is 15. Here, what's the r value? Pi, r is 14 squared into h is 30. Now, if we say we can make n number of cones, so this volume, total volume of this should be equal to n times the volume of this cone. 7 times 7 times 15. Now try to simplify. We see pi get cancelled out. And what else? We can simplify n as n equals, make n as the subject. We multiply 3 times 14 times 14 times 30 divide by 7 times 7 times 15. Now we can simplify 7 times 2, 7 times 2, 15 times 2. When you simplify this, you get 2 times 2, 4, 4 times 2, 8, 8 times 3, 24. So we can make 24 cones from this cylinder. Now we'll look at question number 10. A container is of the form of an inverted right circular cone. The radius of the cone is 12. It's already given. And its height is 21. And it says if the container is filled with water to half its height. So half its height means what's this height now? This height is 21/2. How much more water is required to fill it completely? So that means find the volume of the smaller one, that's the water volume, and find the volume of the cone and subtract. So you need that much of water to fill it completely. So we'll take the first one, the smaller cone. So what's the volume? 1/3 pi pi is 22 over 7, r squared. R squared, now 6 is the radius. 6 times 6, h. H is 21 over 2. So here you get 3 times 2, 7 times 3, and this 2 get cancelled out. So what's the answer? 6 times 3, you get 18. 18 times 22. You get 20 and 2, you get 16, 1 remaining, 2 times 1, 2 plus 1, 3. 2 times 18, 36. 396. So here answer is 396 cubic centimeters for the water volume. Then what about the full one? When you consider the glass, its volume of the bigger one is 1/3 pi r squared. What's r there? 12. And what's h? 21. Now try to simplify. 7 times 3, this 3 with this 3. So here you get 12 times 12, 144 times 22. So we'll multiply 144, 22, 20 and 2 multiplied by 2, and you can use the value, same value, add it together, 3168. So 3168 is the bigger volume. So how much more water is required to fill it completely? You subtract these two. So what's the volume of water needed? Volume of water needed to fill the glass is 3168 minus 396. So when you subtract, you get 2, 16 minus 9, 7, 10 minus 3, 7, and 2. So you need 2772 cubic centimeters of water to fill it completely. Now we'll take the next shape of these solid figures, volume of a sphere. So we know what is a sphere. So here the radius we take as r, and we found out the surface area of a sphere in last chapter. Now we need to find out the volume. In your textbook, in page number 70, there's an activity. So from that activity, you can find out the volume of the sphere. So here they found out the volume is equal to 4 over 3 pi r cube. So here radius is the r value and pi we take as 22 over 7. So here you need to know this formula to find out the volume of the sphere. We'll look at example number 1. In the example number 1, it says find the volume of sphere of radius 21. So radius is given, straight away you can use the formula. V equals 4 over 3 pi r cube. So we can use the value. Pi is 22 over 7. What's the r value? 21 times 21 times 21, because r cube now. So we need to simplify. 7 times 3, 21. 121 get cancelled out. Then we can see what is 21 times 21. Can you remember? 441. So 441 multiplied by 88. So we'll do 441 multiplied by 88. 80 and 8. So you get 35280. So again, when you multiply by this, you get this. When you add it together, you get 38,808 as the volume of this figure. So this is in cubic centimeters. Now take the example number 2. It's a hemisphere. It's solid one. So we know if the volume is 4/3 pi r cube, how we can find out the hemisphere? We are dividing the sphere into 2 parts. So basically divide this by 2. So volume is now becomes 4/3 pi r cube divide by 2. So 2 and this 4 get cancelled out. You get 2/3 pi. Pi is 22/7. R is 7. So you multiply 3 times. 7 get cancelled out. And can you simplify now? So we'll multiply. 2 times 22, 44. 44 times 49. Divide by 3. So we'll multiply 49 times 44. That means 40 and 4. 4 times 9, 36. 3 remaining. 4 times 4, 16 plus 3, 19. So you get same thing here. When you add it together, you get 2156. Now we need to divide by 3. So 2156 divided by 3. 3 times 7 and 3 times 1, 3. 2 remaining for 26. 3 times 8, 24 and 2 remaining. So I can write volume as 718 2/3 cubic centimeters. Take example number 3. Find the radius of a smaller spherical marble of volume 113 1/7. Let's take the radius as r. So this is a spherical one. Radius is r. And the volume is given 113 1/7. So we'll first convert to improper fraction. So 7 times 113, what's that? 791. Plus 1, 792 divided by 7. Now we can use the volume formula. What's volume? Pi 4/3. Pi is 22/7 r cube. So we'll take r cube as the radius to the power 3. Now we'll find r cube. When you make r cube as the subject of the formula, you multiply this way. 792 multiplied by 3 and 7. And this 7 is there. Divide by 4 and 22. Now we'll try to simplify. 7 get cancelled out. Then what else? You can divide by 11. 11 times 2, 11 times 72. Then you can divide by 2. That's 36. Divide by 4, you get 9. So 9 times 3, you get 27 for r cube. So how can we find out r? Take the cube root of 27. So what is the cube root of 27? You get 3, because 3 times 3 times 3, you get 27. So the radius of this spherical marble is 3 centimeters. We'll take exercise 5.3. So they are asking find the volume of the sphere, radius 7. So use the formula. So V equals 4/3 pi 22/7 r cube. 7, 7, 7. Now we need to simplify. 7 get cancelled out. And how we simplify? You can multiply 7 times 7, 49. 49 times 4. 196. Then 196 multiply by 22 and then divide by 3. So 196 multiply by 22, 20 and 2. So 392 here. When you add it together, 4312. So 4312, then you have to divide by 3. 3 times 1, 3. For 13, 3 times 4, 12. 1 remaining, 3 times 3, 9. For 22, 3 times 7, 21. And 1 remaining. So what's the answer? So answer for this volume is 1437 and 1/3. We'll take question number 2. It's given, show that the volume of the sphere of diameter 9. So diameter is 9 means what's the radius? You divide it by 2. So the radius is 9/2. And you are asked to show that the volume is 381 6/7. So we'll plug it to the formula. Volume is 4/3 pi r cube. So what is r? We can plug the r value there. So r value is 9/2, 9/2 and 9/. Now simplify. 3 with 9 you get 3. 2 with this 21 you get 11. 2 with this 4 you get 2 and this 2 get cancelled out with this 2. So finally we get 9 times 9, 81. 81 times 3, 243 times 11/7. So we'll multiply 243 with 11. What's the easiest method? We take 2 and 3 like this and then we add 4 plus 3, 7, 4 plus 2, 6. 2673 and you need to divide this by 7. So when you divide this by 7, 7 times 3, 21. So 5 remaining. For 57, 7 times 8, 56. For 13, how many 7? 7 times 1, 7. So when you subtract 13 and 7, you get 6. So what's the answer? Volume you are getting 381 6/7. So that's the answer given there. So the units cubic centimeters. Question number 3. It says find the volume of a spherical celestial body of radius 2.1 kilometers. So here it says the radius is given 2.1 kilometers now. And you're asked to find out the volume. So how we find out the volume? Again, this is a spherical shape. You can find out using the formula 4/3 pi r cube. 2.1. So I'll write instead of 2.1, 21/10. You have to multiply 3 times. Now try to simplify. I get 7 times 3, 21. This 21 get cancelled out. Then 2 times 5, 2 times 11. Then 2 times 5, 2 times 2. And then again 2 times 5. So what's the value I'm getting? 21 times 21, we know that's 441. Multiplied by 11 and you are getting, what's the value? 125 down. So we'll multiply by 11 first. What's the answer? Use the short method to multiply by 11. 4 and 1 we write down separately, first and the last digit, and then you add 4 plus 1, 5, 4 plus 4, 8. You get 4,851. Now divide by 125. When you divide by 125, you get, what's the answer? 125, you get 250. 250 and 125, you get 375. So 3 is 375. When you subtract this, you get 110. So here 1 is there. So 1101. So 1101, we can try with 8. 8 times 5, 40. 4 remaining. 8 times 2, 16 plus 4, 20. 2 remaining. 8 times 1, 8 plus 2, 10. So when you subtract, you get 101. So here we can take another 0, and for 1000, we know 125 times, what's 1000? 8. Another 8. So that's 1000. So here, what's the value? 38.8. So answer for the volume is 38.8 kilometer cube. Now we'll take fourth question. Find the volume of a hemisphere of radius 10.5 centimeter. So hemisphere is the half of a sphere. So radius is given 10.5. I can write as 21/2. So what's the volume? We can use the volume as 4/3 pi r cube divided by 2. So what's the volume? I can use 2/3 pi r cube, because this is a hemisphere. Now apply the values. Pi 22/7. Radius is 21/2. 21/2. 21/2. You need to multiply 3 times. 7 times 3 with 21 get cancelled out. This 2 and this 2. Then this 2 with this one, you get 11. We know 21 times 21 is 441. Times it by 11 and divide by 2. We'll use the short method. How can we find out multiplication with 11? Write down the two numbers separately, first and the last one. 4 plus 1, 5. 4 plus 4, 8. Then divide this by 2. When you divide this by 2, what you get? 2 times 2, 4. 2 times 4, 8. 2 times 2, 4. 1 remaining. For 11, that's 5. And for 10, that's 5. So what's the answer for the volume? You get 2425.5. What's the unit? You get centimeter cube. We'll take next question. The volume of a sphere is this, cubic centimeters. Find the radius of the sphere. Here, there's a small mistake in your textbook. This should be 8. So, what's the volume given? 11,498 2/3. So, here first thing we'll convert this to improper fraction. 11498 multiplied by 3. 3 times 8, 24. 2 remaining. 3 times 9, 27 plus 2, 29. 2 remaining. 3 times 4, 12 plus 2, 14. 1 remaining. 3 times 1, 3 plus 1, 4. 3 times 1, 3. So here and then add 2, you get 34,496/3. And then that's equal to the volume of the sphere. So what's the volume formula? 4/3 pi is 22/7 r cube. So we need to find out r. Now make r cube as the subject of the formula. That means you multiply this by 3 and 7, divide by 3, 4 and 22. Now we'll try to simplify. This 3 and this 3 get cancelled out. What else? I can simplify 4 times 1, 4 times 8, 32. For 24, you get 4 times 6, 4 times 2, 8 and 4 times 4, 16. And now I can simplify with 11. 11 times 2, 11 times 7, 77. And then you get 86 minus 77, you get 9. For 92, that's 8. And then you get 4, 44, that's 4. So you get 784 there. Then again when you divide by 2, 2 times 1 and 2 times 3, 6. For 19, 18, that's 9. And for 4, that's 2. You're getting 392 times 7. So what's the answer? 392. We can find the factors. Without multiplying, we'll see what are the factors to get r cube. So divide by 2, you get 6. Divide by 2 again, we get 9 and 8. So 98. Again divide by 2, you get 49. Then 7 and 7. So here when you write down the factors, can you see 2 3's, 2 to the power 3. And these 2 7's and this 7, you get 7 to the power 3. So that's equal to r cube. When you take the cube root, what happens? You can take the cube root of 2 to the power 3. That becomes 2 cube root of 7. That's 7. So what's the r value? 7 times 2, you get 14 centimeters for the radius value. Now we'll take 6th question. It says find the radius of the metal ball that is made by using all the metal obtained by melting 8 metal balls, each of radius 7. So here, so the smaller one is given 7 centimeter is given as the radius, and there are 8 smaller balls like this, and you can make a big one. So we'll take the big one, the radius is r. So here what we can do, volume of the bigger one should be equal to 8 times the volume of the smaller one. So we'll compare the two volumes. So here, what's the volume of the smaller one? 4 over 3 pi r cube. R times r, because r is 7. And multiplied by 8 should be equal to 4 over 3 pi r cube. Now, can you see? 4 over 3 get cancelled out. Pi gets cancelled out. So here you get 8 times 7 to the power 3 is r cube. What is 8? What's the cube term of 8? 2 to the power 3. 2 to the power 3 and 7 cube is r cube. When you take the cube root, you get r value. So what's the cube term? I can write r is equal to cube root of 2 to the power 3 is 2. Cube root of 7 to the power 3 is 7. So what's the radius of the bigger sphere? 7 times 2, you get 14 centimeters. Now we'll take 7th question. It says show that 32 metal balls of radius 3 can be made by melting a solid metal hemisphere of radius 12. So here 32 metal balls with radius 3. From that you can make a hemisphere. So we need to show that this is equal to hemisphere with radius 12. So we need to check the hemisphere radius is 12 centimeters. So we'll try to use the formula and find out what's the radius is. If you are getting 12, that means correct. So here this is a sphere. So what's the volume of a sphere? 4 over 3 pi r cube. R is 3 times 3 times 3. And you get 32 balls like that. That's equal to volume of the hemisphere. Now volume of the sphere is 4 over 3. So when you divide it by 2, you get 2 over 3 pi r cube. Now we'll see whether we are getting r as 12. Pi get cancelled out. This 3 get cancelled out with this 3. This 2 get cancelled out with this 2 and you get 2. Now we'll make r cube as the subject of the formula. So what is r cube? Already there. So that means 3 times 3 times 3, 3 to the power 3. 32 times 2, you get 64. So what is 64 as a cube term? We know 3 to the power 3 and 4 to the power 3. If you know cube of this is this, how can we find out cube root? Cube root of 3 to the power 3 is 3. Cube root of 4 to the power 3 is 4. So what's the new radius of the hemisphere? 4 times 3 is 12. So that's what we need to find. Now we'll look at miscellaneous exercise. Question number 1. It says solid metal spheres of radius 3 were made by melting a metal block. The metal block had a square cross-section of 12 centimeter sides. The length of the metal block was 22. How many metal spheres were made? So here this is a cube, cuboid. So from the cuboid they are making metal spheres with radius 3. So in this one metal block, square cross section. So one side is given. If this is the cross section, 12 and 12 given, and the length of this one is 22. So the other side is 22. Now what we can do, we find the volume of the cuboid and see how many spheres we can make. So first find the volume of the cuboid. 22 times 12 times 12. And what's the volume of one sphere? We can find out one sphere is 4 over 3 pi 22 over 7 r cube. 3 times 3 times 3. If we can make n number of spheres, what's the total volume? So n spheres we can find out 4 over 3 times 22 over 7 times 3 times 3 times 3 n. That should be equal to the volume of the bigger one, the cuboid. And you are asking how many metal spheres we can make. So that's n. So we'll try to simplify. So make n as the subject. We can cross multiply. So 22 times 12 times 12 in the numerator, and this 3 and 7 goes up. And then what happens? All these values goes down. 4, 22, 3, 3, 3. Now we can simplify. 22 get cancelled out. 3 get cancelled out with this one. 4 times 3, this 3 with this one. 3 times 4. You get 12. So what's the answer? 4 times 7, you get 28 metal balls you can make. Now we'll take question number 2 in your miscellaneous exercise. A solid metal sphere of radius 3.5 centimeters was melted and casted into a circular cone of the same radius. So sphere with radius 3.5 I can take as 7/2. And you're making a circular cone of the same radius. So same radius is 7/2. Find the height of the cone. So you are asked to find out the height of the cone, assuming there was no waste of the metal in the molding process. So that means when you find out the volume of the sphere, that should be equal to the volume of the cone. So we'll equate. What's the volume of the sphere? 4/3 pi r cube. R cube is 7/2. 7/2 times 7/2. So that should be equal to volume of the cone. So what is the volume of the cone? 1/3 pi r square. 7/2 times 7/2 times h. Now, when you are equating, we can see pi get cancelled out when you divide both sides by pi. This 3 get cancelled out with this 3. 1 7/2 get cancelled out with this one. Another 7/2 get cancelled out with this one. So what you get? You get 4 times 7/2 here is equal to h. So what is h? 2 times 2. 2 times 7 is 14 centimeters. So the height of the cone should be equal to 14 centimeters. Now we'll take the third question. So in the third question it says a cone of slant height r. Slant height r. So this height is r. And the apex O was constructed using a metal lamina in the shape of the sector shown in the figure. So here slant height is given r. And the center and the radius of the sector are O and r respectively. So here radius is also r and the center is given O. And n pieces of ice in the shape of spheres of radius A are placed in this cone. The cone is held inverted. So that means when you change upside down, so this is inverted cone and they put ice cubes there. If the cone is filled completely with water, when all the ice melts, shows that this equation satisfies. So here it says the ice cubes are spherical shape. So ice cubes are spherical shape with radius A. So if you want to find out the volume of one ice cube, how can we find out? So 4/3 pi A cube. And it's given this one is the cone with this shape. Now here we know this is 144. What is the inside angle? Angle at the center? We can find 360 minus 144. You get 216. So 216 is the angle at the center. So this, when you make the cone, the arc length is equal to the circumference of the cone. So here how can we find out the circumference? Using the formula angle divided by 360. So angle divided by 360 into 2 pi, and the radius of the sector is given r. So here this is the circumference of this sector. So when you take the circumference of this sector becomes the 2 pi r of this circle. That's the circumference of this circle. So 2 pi r of this one, we'll take that one is r1. 2 pi r1 is equal to 216 over 360 into 2 pi r. Now here 2 pi get cancelled out. You can find out the radius of the cone is 216 divided by, here 2 pi r get cancelled out, 360. Now we can simplify this and see 4 times 9, 4 times 5, 20, for 16, 4 times 4. Then divide by 2, this is 45, divide by 2 you get 27. Again divide by 9, 9 times 5, 9 times 3. So you get, what's the formula? The new radius is 3 over 5 r. So here new radius is 3 over 5 r for the cone. Now it says one ice cube is a shape of a sphere. So what's the radius? A. There are in such cubes, and when you take the volume of that one, that should be equal to the volume of the cone. Now what is the volume of ice cubes? Volume of ice cubes is 4 over 3 pi r cube, and there are n such cubes, that should be equal to n. Then this value should be equal to the volume of the cone. So here n times 4 over 3 times 22 over 7 a cube should be equal to the volume of the cone. So what is the volume of the cone? 1/3 pi. Pi I can write 22 over 7. 1/3 pi r squared. Now what's the r squared value? R squared value is 3/5 r. So I can write 9 over 25 r squared, and we need h. Now we'll try to find out the perpendicular height of the cone. So we'll do it with another color. Now we need to find out h. We know h squared plus r1 squared. R1 squared is 9 over 25 r squared is equal to r squared. Then take it to the other side. H squared is equal to r squared minus 9 over 25 r squared. When you take the common denominator, you get 25 minus 9, that's 16 r squared over 25. When you take the square root, what you get as the h? H becomes the 16 square root is 4 r, and square root of 25 is 5. We found h is 4r over 5. Now we'll plug that value for h. So h equals 4r over 5. So when you do that, now we can simplify the terms. 22 over 7 get cancelled out with this one. What else? I can see 4 cancel out with 4. Then this 3 cancel out with this 3. What else? You get, we'll write AN or NA is equal to, here you get 9 r squared and r, you get 9r cube over 25 times 5. What is 25 times 5? 5 times 5, 25. 2 remaining. 5 times 2, 10. 10 plus 2, 125. Then when you cross multiply this, what you get? Here, there's a cube here. So a cube is there. A cube. So when you cross multiply this, what you get? We get 125 in a cube is equal to 9r cube. Now, this is my question, not in the textbook. So we'll see whether we can find out this answer. So it says spherical steel ball with d as 3 centimeters. That means there's a spherical ball. The diameter is 3 centimeters. It's melted to make 3 spherical balls with different radius values. So here one is, the diameter is given, one is 2.5, that means 5 over 2. One is 2 centimeters and the other one is, we need to find. So we need to find out the radius of the other one. So what happens when you consider the volume, when you melt this one and making these 3, the volume of these 3 should be equal to the volume of the bigger one. So we'll find out using the equation. So what is the volume of this spherical ball? So when you are comparing volume, so we are making 3 sphericals using the bigger one. So that means the volume of the bigger one should be equal to the sum of these volumes. So here, what's the volume of the bigger one? 4 over 3 pi r cube. What is r now? 3 over 2 here because diameter is 3. Then what is the volume of this one? 4 over 3 pi. R is 5 over 4. 5 over 2 is diameter. 5 over 4 is the radius now. Plus 4 over 3 pi. R is 1 here. 1 cube. And what about this one? 4 over 3 pi. We don't know the radius. So we can put r cube. Now we can see 4 pi over 3 get cancelled out. And then what's remaining? So you can find out 27 over 2 to the power 3, 8 is equal to 5 to the power 3 is 125 over 5 times 4 times 4 times 4, 64. Plus, what's this value? You get 1 there and this value is r cube. So you can make r cube as the subject of the formula. R cube is equal to 27 over 8 minus 125 over 64 minus 1. Now here we'll simplify this part. You can make it to 64. That means 27 multiplied by 8. 27 multiplied by 8, you get 216. So 216 minus 125 over 64 minus 1. So what is 216? Subtract 125, you get 91. So 91 over 64 minus 1. So make it to the same denominator, you get 91 minus 64. So when you subtract this, you get 27. So here you get 27 over 64. R cube is 27 over 64. What's the cube root of 27? So R is equal to cube root of 27 is 3. Cube root of 64 is 4. So the radius is 3 over 4, or as decimals you can write 0.75 centimeters. So here using the big volume, you can find out the radius of another spherical ball here without substituting the pi and the other value. So when you cross out all the common factors, it's easy to find out the answer. In this lesson, we covered all theory related to volume of spheres, hemisphere, pyramids and prisms. So we completed all the examples and exercise in this unit. Hope you can understand the theory and memorize the formulae to apply the volume of the solid.